My son died on a Thursday. Cloudy sky. No wind. No warning. The kind of day that feels too ordinary for your life to fall apart. I am Martin Graves. Location, suburban Colorado. His name was Caleb. He was 17. A sharp kid. Quiet, like me. He didn't crash a car or overdose or get caught in the wrong neighborhood. He drowned in our own backyard lake on a day he wasn't supposed to be swimming. That's what they told me anyway. I replayed that day 1,000 times in my head. I was at work. My wife, Rachel, said she was out grocery shopping. Caleb was alone. They found his body hours later, face down. No bruises, no signs of a struggle. An accident. That's what the police said. No one questioned it, except me. Rachel broke down for weeks, said she couldn't stay in the house without falling apart, said we should fill the silence, so we brought someone in, her son, from her previous marriage. His name was Tyler, 16. Rough edges. Lived with his dad until a recent custody shift. I barely knew him, saw him maybe twice a year. We were never close. But after Caleb died, Rachel insisted Tyler come live with us. He's family, she said. He needs stability. And what do I need? I asked. She didn't answer. So Tyler moved into Caleb's room. My dead son's bed. My dead son's closet. My dead son's silence. Now filled with someone else's music. Someone else's mess. Someone else's laugh. I tried. I really did. I took him to school. Picked him up. Asked him about his day. But something felt wrong. Not just grief wrong. Off. He didn't cry for Caleb. Didn't even ask about him. Not once. Then one night, 3 months after he moved in, I walked past the door to Caleb's room. Tyler's room now. It was open, just a crack. He was laughing at something on his phone. And on his wall, I saw it. A photo of Caleb, ripped down the middle. I opened the door slowly. "Where'd you get that?" He looked startled. "Found it in the drawer. Thought it was junk." He shrugged. "Didn't know it meant anything." "Didn't know? You're living in the boy's room, sleeping in his bed. How do you not know?" I left without saying another word. But that night, I couldn't sleep, because I kept hearing my own voice in my head. What if he did know? What if it wasn't an accident? What if I brought the killer into my home? I buried my son last year, and 6 months later, I let the boy who killed him move into his room. Grief makes you doubt your own shadow, but sometimes it sharpens you too. I started watching Tyler, not like a cop, like a father who's lost one son and isn't ready to lose control again. At first, it was small things. He never called Caleb by name. Always him, or your son, or the other one. Never looked at Caleb's pictures. Never asked about him. Never joined us when Rachel lit the memorial candle every Friday night, and he smiled. Not often, but when he did, it felt wrong. Too clean, too rehearsed. A smile that knew more than it let on. One morning over breakfast, I caught him grinning at his phone. "What's funny?" I asked. "Just a meme." He tilted the screen away. A reflex. A guilty one. Later that day, I found the phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. A private folder. Dozens of videos. Some violent fights. Pranks that went too far. One labeled, "Stupid Water Game, RIP. It was locked. Password protected. My stomach twisted. I asked Rachel about it that night. She brushed it off. "He's just trying to cope. Boys act out in weird ways." "He's not coping. He's hiding." "Martin, please," she snapped. "We've already lost one son. Don't push the other away." Other son? That word sat in my gut like poison. I tried to give him space. Tried to be patient. But the more I watched, the more I saw it. He didn't act like a boy in grief. He acted like a boy who got away with something. Then came the real break. I opened the garage door late one night, Couldn't sleep. And there, on the concrete floor, was Caleb's old bike, smashed, bent, and freshly dented. The same bike he was supposedly riding the day he fell into the lake. Rachel had told me it was lost, thrown out after the accident. But here it was, hidden, behind the mower, behind the rakes, behind everything we didn't want to see. And as I stood there, flashlight shaking in my hand, I realized something simple and awful. Someone had lied, not just about the bike, about everything. The boy I buried left behind more than grief. He left a trail, and the boy sleeping in his room was leading me right back to it. The thing about grief is that it makes people overlook things. But I wasn't grieving anymore. I was digging. And digging requires paperwork. I requested Tyler's school transfer file from his previous district in Denver, told the office staff I needed it for family records. They hesitated, but Rachel's name was still on the custody file. That was enough. When the envelope arrived, I opened it like it was ticking. Suspension notices, 2 behavioral warnings, and 1 red flag report, October 13th, 2022. Physical altercation during off-campus school trip. Another student pushed into riverbank. No serious injuries. Parents notified. Student disciplined with in-school suspension. I stared at it. Tyler had pushed a kid into a river 6 months before Caleb drowned. Same pattern, same accident, same silence afterward. I called the school, posed as a guidance counselor doing a character check. The woman on the phone lowered her voice. Tyler had issues. Smart but manipulative. Got in trouble, always found a way to blame someone else. Was the river incident ever investigated? I asked. No, both boys said it was a joke gone wrong. And the other boy? A pause. Transferred schools a month later. Parents didn't give a reason. I thanked her and hung up. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a blueprint. Later that evening, I sat across the dinner table from Tyler. He was chewing chicken wings like nothing in the world had ever touched him. Hey Tyler, I asked, ever hear from your old friend Noah from Denver? His fork paused, just for a second. Who? You know, I smiled. The one you pushed into a river. He blinked. His face didn't change, but I saw it. That flinch. Not fear, recognition. That was just a stupid game, he muttered. It wasn't like this. Like what? He didn't answer. Rachel jumped in. Can we just eat? I nodded. I would eat. And I would wait. Because now I knew. This wasn't grief. This wasn't guilt. This was a pattern. And my son wasn't the first. One boy fell. Another one almost did. And the one still breathing was the common thread. I couldn't sleep. So I poured a drink, turned on my desk lamp, and opened the folder I'd hidden behind tax files for 10 months. Caleb's death investigation. I'd read it before, word for word. But back then, I wasn't looking for what was missing. Now, I was. Page 2. Time of death, 4:45 p.m. Estimated drowning window, 4:15, 4:45 p.m. Witnesses present? None. Persons questioned: Rachel Graves, mother; Martin Graves, father; neighbors, 2. I stared at that line. Nothing about Tyler. He was home that day. I remembered now. He was grounded for skipping class. Said he was in his room all afternoon. But his name was never in the file. Not even as a bystander. Why? Why wouldn't they question the boy living in the house? I dug further. Police officer's statement summary. Mother stated the only person home was Caleb. Said she left briefly for errands, returned and found son missing. There it was. A lie. I marched to the bedroom. Rachel was still awake, scrolling her phone in bed. Why did you tell the police Tyler wasn't home? She blinked. then slowly set the phone down. "What are you talking about?" "I just reread the case file. You said Caleb was alone. You told them Tyler wasn't even here. Because he didn't do anything." "You don't know that." She exhaled hard. "Martin, I saw what this grief did to you. You weren't eating. You were spiraling. You lost our son." "No," I snapped. "I lost my son, and you protected yours." She got quiet, then said the worst thing she could have. "What was I supposed to do? Have them investigate Tyler? Arrest him? Treat him like a killer based on a hunch?" "Yes," I shouted. "If it meant knowing what really happened that day, yes." Silence. No tears, just shame. Or maybe just calculation. "He was scared," she whispered. "He told me they had a fight, that Caleb slipped. And instead of telling the truth," I said slowly, "you buried it with the boy." She said nothing. She didn't need to. I saw it in her face. She hadn't just failed to ask questions, she helped hide the answers. She didn't lose two sons. She traded one for the other. And now I knew who helped bury Caleb and why I had to dig them both out. After Caleb died, the police checked our home security system. At least, they said they did. But the outdoor camera facing the backyard, offline. Cloud malfunction, they claimed. I believed that, back then. Now, I needed the truth. I spent 2 hours in the garage, digging through old tech boxes. Finally found it. The cloud backup drive I used for the cameras before switching to a new subscription. Unplugged, covered in dust, plugged it in. The LED flickered, alive. Footage loaded, date stamped, and archived. April 6th, 2024. The day Caleb drowned. Folder name, Cam04 Backyard. 12 hours of footage. I skipped forward, 4:10 p.m. There they were, two boys. Caleb walking toward the lake. Tyler, 10 steps behind. No yelling, no fighting, just following, like a shadow. I leaned in closer. Caleb stopped at the edge, looked down. He seemed to wave at something, maybe his reflection. Tyler stepped behind him, close, too close. Then Caleb turned, said something. Tyler leaned in. Their bodies shifted, and then a sudden motion, a blur. Caleb went forward, into the water. No hand reached for him, no scramble to save him. Just Tyler, standing, watching, for 5 seconds, 10, 15. Then he turned and walked away. I slammed the pause button. My hands were shaking. I replayed it again, slower. This time, I saw it, frame by frame. Tyler's hand on Caleb's back. A subtle shove. No accident, no doubt. At the next frame, Tyler reappears 10 minutes later, running back from the woods, wet sleeve, out of breath. He stood at the lake, screamed for help. He staged it. And Rachel knew. She had to. I sat in the dark for a long time, not crying, not even breathing. It felt like just burning. They stole my son's truth. Now I would steal their peace. The camera didn't lie. It caught everything. The hand, the silence, the betrayal. And now it was my weapon. I didn't scream. I didn't break dishes. I didn't storm into Tyler's room and drag him out by the collar. Because rage, real rage, isn't loud. It's cold, surgical, slow. I started with control. No more allowances, no rides to school, No access to Caleb's room. Your behavior needs correcting, I told him flatly. This house isn't a hotel. He rolled his eyes. Didn't argue. Good. Let him think I was just being strict. Next, I called the school. Tyler had lied about a volunteer form. I reported the discrepancy anonymously. 2 days later, he was pulled from the student council list for falsified info. It's not fair, he snapped at Rachel. Life rarely is, I said. Then, I cut off his college fund access. Bank account locked. It's being audited, I told Rachel. You're not on the deed. Legally, I don't need permission. She didn't protest. Not really. Just looked at me differently, like she was finally realizing something. The man she married could vanish behind his own eyes. But I wasn't done. I called in favors. An old co-worker at the sheriff's office owed me one. I handed him a USB. What's this? Something the original detectives missed. From the cloud. Time-stamped. Watermarked. No edits. He plugged it in. Watched. And his face changed. You want me to reopen the case? No, I said. I want it documented. I want it on record. Not for the news. For the law. For the future. You want justice. I want my son to not be a footnote in a fake story. He nodded. This doesn't look like an accident. It wasn't, I said. It was theater. When I got home that night, Tyler was in the kitchen. He asked, almost smug, "You ever gonna stop being weird? Or is this just how it is now?" I smiled. This is how it is now. Because I wasn't just taking his comfort. I was taking his future, one thread at a time, until he looked down and realized he had nothing left. He thought he got away with murder. But the thing about ghosts, they don't forgive. They haunt. Some men use fists. I used pages. I spent an entire afternoon crafting it. A fake journal. Leather-bound. Aged with coffee stains. I filled it with dates, sketches, notes, all written in Caleb's handwriting, copied from old homework. The last entry? Tyler scares me sometimes. He pushed me last week, said he didn't mean it, but it felt like he did. I slipped it into the living room bookshelf, right between Of Mice and Men and a forgotten travel guide to Yellowstone, and waited. 2 days later, it was gone. I found it in Tyler's backpack, half buried under his hoodie and a bag of chips. I said nothing. He said less. But the cracks, they were showing. That night, I made tea, set one cup across from him at the table. Caleb used to love this tea, I said. Chamomile and honey. Tyler barely looked up. Weird, I never saw him drink tea. No? I raised an eyebrow. Not even the day you were by the lake together. His spoon stopped stirring. We weren't by the lake together. Right, I nodded. You were in your room all afternoon. He stood up quickly. Are we done here? Just one question, I said quietly. What were Caleb's last words? He turned slowly, his face pale. What? You said it was an accident, right? So what did he say before it happened? He stared at me, eyes wide, hands twitching, throat bobbing with a swallow. He said, he stopped. Silence, dead silence. He said, it wasn't funny. And then, I asked, then he fell. I stood up, walked to the desk, opened the drawer, pulled out the printed still frame from the video, set it down. It showed Tyler's hand, extended, pressing, pushing. His eyes went wide. You can't prove anything. I don't have to, I said. You just did. He ran to his room, slammed the door. But he didn't come out for dinner, didn't speak to Rachel that night, and for the first time since he entered this house, he was afraid. He thought I wanted justice. What I wanted was confession. On his face, in his silence, in his fear. Justice doesn't always wear a badge. Sometimes it wears a tie. Sometimes it files paperwork. Sometimes it simply waits until everything the guilty built starts to rot from the inside. I didn't go to the police. I'd already handed the footage to my friend at the sheriff's office. It was filed, time-stamped, quiet. But Tyler was a minor. There would be no trial, no cell, no orange jumpsuit. So I found another way. First move, I contacted the school board. I forwarded Tyler's disciplinary records from Denver, attached the video stills, didn't accuse, just raised concern. 3 days later, he was suspended for administrative investigation. College letters, withdrawn. Scholarship applications, frozen. Second move, legal guardianship. I called my attorney and revised the will. Remove him completely, I said. And if anything happens to me, Rachel gets nothing either. That'll make noise, he warned. Let it, I said. Third move, Rachel. I handed her divorce papers at the dinner table. You're serious? She asked, voice trembling. I buried my son. You buried the truth. We're done. She didn't fight, didn't scream. She just looked at Tyler, and for once, she didn't defend him. They moved out 2 weeks later. Tyler tried to act smug. You think this makes you noble? No, I said. It makes me free. The house felt too big after that, too quiet, but not like before, not like grief, like peace. Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens. Sometimes it comes with emptiness, the kind that hears itself. That's what I gave them. Not revenge, not prison, silence, isolation, consequence. He stole my son's breath. I stole his world. No violence, no blood, just the slow unraveling of everything he thought he owned. It had been almost a year since I stood here, since I let myself feel anything deeper than fury. Now the ground was cold, the leaves were dry, and the chair I brought with me, just a folding lawn chair, sat across from a name carved in stone. Caleb Elijah Graves, 2007, 2024. Loved more than words, missed more than time. I didn't speak right away, didn't bring flowers, didn't bring candles, just truth. Hey kid, I whispered. I know it's late, but I figured I owed you the version of me that wasn't filled with rage. I sat down. The wind answered for him. He's gone, and she's gone with him. Not dead, but out of this house, out of my life. I didn't scream. I didn't hit him. I did something worse. I made him feel everything he made you feel. Alone, powerless, erased. I paused. My voice cracked for the first time in months. But the truth is, even with him gone, you're still not back. You never will be. I pulled out something from my jacket pocket. A folded piece of paper, one of Caleb's last drawings. A sketch of a tree house he wanted us to build. We never got to it. I set it by the headstone. Let the wind do what it wanted with it. Then I cried. The kind of cry that doesn't make sound. The kind that empties you. I stood to leave. But before I did, I whispered something I hadn't said since the funeral. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I let them stay. I'm sorry it took me this long to become the man you already thought I was. I looked back one last time. The chair stayed behind. I burned his future. I ended her lies. But there's one thing justice never gave me back. The empty chair at my table. And the voice I'll never hear again. I hadn't touched Caleb's room in 12 months. Not because I was preserving it, because I was afraid of what I'd feel walking back in. Dust covered the bookshelf. The bedsheet still carried the faint scent of his body spray. The posters on the wall, faded now, still leaned the way he left them. Time had stopped in here, but I hadn't. I came to pack it up, to finally let go. But when I opened the bottom drawer of his desk, I found something I didn't expect. A letter. It was folded. No envelope. The handwriting unmistakable. Caleb's, dated 2 weeks before he died. The ink trembled in places, like he wasn't sure if he should be writing it. I read it slowly. Dad, I know you love Tyler. I know you try, but something's off. He scares me sometimes. I thought I was just being sensitive, but then he pushed me. Not hard, but he laughed after, said it was a test. If anything happens to me, and it's not an accident, I just wanted someone to know. I wanted you to know. I love you. Please don't be mad. See, I sat there for a long time, holding that paper, not crying anymore, not screaming, just realizing he had tried to warn me. I didn't fail as a father because I didn't protect him. I failed because I ignored the feeling that something was wrong, the feeling that justice only confirmed too late. I stood up, letter in hand, put it in a small wooden box. Then I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I opened the window, let fresh air back in, and sat down on the bed. Not Tyler's, not mine, Caleb's, just for a while. The house felt full again, not because anyone had come back, but because I was finally done chasing ghosts. I lost my son. I raised his killer, and I took everything back, except time. But now, when I look into that empty room, I don't see a tomb anymore. I see a space only one boy ever truly filled, and always will.